You were not born to watch other men build empires while you applaud from the shadows. And yet, if you are honest, you have spent years studying greatness without demanding it from yourself. You call it interest. You call it ambition. But interest does not change a man. Obsession does. There is a difference between wanting success and being consumed by it. The crowd wants to be wealthy. The 1% cannot sleep until they are. The crowd says, I hope this works. The 1% says, it must work because I have burned every other option. And that single distinction separates palaces from paychecks. You think the 1% are more intelligent. They are not. You think they are luckier. They are not. You think they were chosen. They were not. They simply crossed a line most men never dare to approach. They became obsessed with a definite chief aim, so obsessed that comfort became an enemy and delay became intolerable. Let me ask you something that may sting. How many times have you declared a new beginning, a new year, a new month, a new Monday? You felt fire for 3 days, perhaps 7. Then life tapped you on the shoulder and you negotiated with your own promise. The 1% do not negotiate. And when a man becomes obsessed, he does not ask if he feels like working. He works. He does not ask if conditions are favorable. He creates favorable conditions. He does not retreat when misunderstood. He expects it. Obsession is not madness. It is controlled intensity. It is a mind so fixed upon one outcome that doubt finds no resting place. Right now, somewhere in this world, a man with fewer advantages than you is advancing because he has decided that retreat is no longer available. While you debate, he executes. While you hesitate, he persists. While you scroll and compare, he builds in silence. And 1 year from today, the distance between you will not be talent. It will be obsession. Listen carefully. The 1% are not balanced. They are not casual. They are not seeing how it goes. They wake with their aim in mind. They walk with it. They speak with it. They measure every decision against it. Their friends may call them extreme. Their family may call them intense. But history calls them successful. You fear obsession because you have mistaken it for sacrifice. But what you are sacrificing now is far greater. Another year of average results. Another year of explaining why it wasn't the right time. Another year of watching younger men pass you with quieter excuses. Ignore this and you will repeat the year. Look at the pattern of your life, not the dreams, the pattern. What has it produced? If desire alone were enough, you would already stand among the 1%. If intelligence alone were enough, scholars would rule the world. If opportunity alone were enough, every man with access would prosper. The separating force is fixation. A burning desire so definite that it rearranges your habits. A decision so final that your mind refuses alternatives. An obsession so steady that your subconscious begins to work on your behalf even while you sleep. This is the lesson most men will hear and dismiss. They will nod and say, yes, I should be more disciplined, and tomorrow they will return to comfort. But if something inside you tightens as you hear these words, if you feel exposed rather than entertained, then you are ready. Because obsession is not something you add to your life. It is something you choose over everything that weakens it. The 1% do not dabble. They do not sample ambition. They marry it. They write their aim They read it morning and night. They speak it until it engraves itself upon the subconscious mind. They go the extra mile when no applause is offered. They persist when no evidence is visible. And in time, the world calls it inevitable. Before this speech ends, you will see clearly what truly separates the 1% from the rest. It is not background. It is not timing. It is not secret information hidden in vaults. It is a level of obsession so disciplined, so directed, and so relentless that mediocrity cannot survive in its presence. Now ask yourself, are you interested in success, or are you ready to become obsessed? Part 1, the sacred fixation that reorders a man's life. You have been taught to fear obsession as though it were a sickness of the mind. I tell you, it is the highest form of mental health when it is directed toward a definite chief aim. What the world calls obsession, I call sacred fixation, a disciplined devotion to one purpose so commanding that lesser distractions fall away without struggle. Sacred fixation is not wild emotion. It is not noise. It is not shouting ambition to impress weak men. It is a quiet, immovable decision that this one aim shall dominate your thoughts, your hours, your associations, and your conduct. When a man reaches that point, he no longer debates with himself. He organizes himself. Most men are interested in success. Very few are committed to it. Interest says, I hope this will come to pass. Commitment says, it shall come to pass, and I will arrange my life accordingly. Between those two statements lies the invisible line that separates the 1% from the rest of mankind. The ordinary man hopes, the rare man decides, and decision, when it is final, rearranges destiny. Once a decision is sealed, the mind begins seeking means instead of excuses. Energy that was scattered becomes concentrated. Doubt loses its dwelling place. This is sacred fixation, the moment you refuse to divide your devotion. Let me tell you of a young man who possessed no capital, no influence, and no credentials. His clothing was plain, his introduction non-existent. He arrived at the laboratory of a great inventor with nothing in his hands but a decision in his mind. He did not seek employment. He declared within himself partnership. He stood there for hours before he was even granted a hearing. He was not impressive to the eye, yet there was something in his bearing that did not beg. It announced he had already crossed the invisible line. In his own mind, he had burned the bridge of retreat. Failure was not a possibility to be discussed. Months passed before opportunity revealed itself. He accepted humble tasks without complaint, yet he never surrendered his inward claim. Others drifted in and out of that place, adjusting their expectations to circumstance. He did not drift. He remained fixed. One day, when a new invention required a champion, this young man seized the moment. He sold the device where others hesitated. The partnership he had declared in his own mind became fact in the outer world. The young man was Edwin C. Barnes. The inventor was Thomas A. Edison. Understand the lesson. Barnes did not wait for certainty before committing himself. He committed first. Evidence followed. The 1% bind themselves to an outcome before the world recognizes it. That is sacred fixation. Why do most men retreat at the first inconvenience? Because they have not made a vow. They have made a wish. A wish negotiates. A vow commands. The moment discomfort appears, the man of interest says, perhaps this is not the right time. The man of sacred fixation says, this is the price of admission. There comes a moment when a man must burn the bridge of retreat, not recklessly, but deliberately. He must say within himself, I will stake my reputation, my comfort, and my ease upon this one aim. When that vow is made, his habits begin changing without struggle. He rises earlier, not because someone orders him to, but because delay feels intolerable. He measures his hours with precision, for time becomes sacred. Trivial conversation loses its charm. Idle amusement appears costly. Ridicule loses its sting because he is no longer seeking approval. He is seeking completion. Sacred fixation simplifies life. 1,000 small decisions vanish because they are judged by one standard. Does this advance my chief aim? If it does not, it is discarded. This is why the 1% appear disciplined. They are not forcing themselves constantly. They are governed by one dominant intention. There is a vast difference between wanting wealth and refusing poverty. The man who wants wealth admires it from afar. The man who refuses poverty reorganizes his conduct immediately. He studies, he plans, he associates with purpose. He does not merely desire a larger income, he rejects mediocrity as unacceptable. Observe how others begin to perceive such a man. At first, they whisper, they call him intense, they suggest moderation. His seriousness makes them uncomfortable. But as months pass and his conduct remains steady, whispers turn into curiosity. Curiosity becomes respect. Respect becomes trust. Sacred fixation alters posture. The eyes hold certainty. The voice grows firm. The handshake carries decision, not because he seeks to impress, but because he is no longer divided within himself. Unity of purpose produces authority of presence. When a man writes his chief aim and reads it aloud morning and night, he is not reciting empty words. He is instructing his subconscious mind. He is impressing upon it a dominant pattern. Repetition is not for memory alone. It is for transformation. The subconscious mind accepts what is repeated with feeling. When the aim becomes dominant, unseen forces begin arranging ideas, contacts, and opportunities. What appears to others as coincidence is often the orderly working of a mind that has been given clear command. Say to yourself, I am not experimenting with my future. I am constructing it. I do not hope for success. I claim it with disciplined action. My chief aim governs my habits, my speech, and my hours. Retreat is no longer available to me. Speak these words not as poetry, but as instruction. Speak them until they feel inevitable. The 1% do not stumble into greatness. They concentrate themselves into it. Do not misunderstand me. Sacred fixation does not make a man harsh. It makes him clear. It does not make him frantic. It makes him steady. It does not remove his humanity. It removes his hesitation. The 1% are not extraordinary men. They are men who refuse to divide their devotion. Part 2, The Inner Furnace, How Obsession Hardens into Power. Obsession alone is not power. It is raw material. To become force, it must be directed through persistence, accurate thought, and organized action. A man may feel intense for a week and accomplish nothing. But when intensity is disciplined, it becomes an inner furnace. Consider a man who commanded his engineers to construct an engine they declared impossible. They examined the design and insisted it could not be done. He listened, then calmly repeated his instruction. Produce it. Months passed. Resistance continued. He did not alter his aim. The engineers protested again. He did not retreat. He held to his decision until the impossible yielded. That man was Henry Ford. What separated him from his engineers was not intelligence. It was unyielding fixation directed by persistent command. This is the difference between temporary enthusiasm and sustained intensity. Enthusiasm is loud. Sustained intensity is quiet and relentless. The 1% do not adjust their aim to fit comfort. They adjust their effort to fit the aim. Within every man there is an inner furnace. Each repeated thought is a stroke of the hammer upon hot steel. When you speak your chief aim daily with conviction, you are hardening belief. When you persist in action despite temporary defeat, you are tempering character. In contrast stands the drifter. Drifting does not begin with failure. It begins with small compromises. I will begin tomorrow. This obstacle is inconvenient. Perhaps I should lower my aim. Each small surrender weakens conviction until the original purpose dissolves. Sacred fixation refuses compromise. It examines obstacles not as barriers, but as instruction. The 1% accept temporary defeat as a teacher. They study it. They extract the lesson. Then they return with increased precision. Adversity is fuel for the furnace. When resisted, the ordinary man shrinks. The obsessed man increases his effort. He does not curse difficulty, he expects it. He does not interpret delay as denial. He interprets it as refinement. At first, observers call such a man stubborn. They question his persistence. They predict collapse. But as years pass and results accumulate, those same voices call him visionary. History honors what contemporaries often misunderstand. Fear does not vanish from the mind of the 1%. It is commanded. Fear is an impulse. Faith is a decision. When a man has declared his aim repeatedly, fear becomes secondary. It may knock at the door, but it does not occupy the house. Say to yourself, I persist until resistance collapses. Every obstacle increases my resolve. My mind obeys my chief purpose. Temporary defeat cannot command me. Repeat these declarations when difficulty appears. You are forging inner steel. Obsession without organized planning becomes chaos. The 1% convert fixation into structure. They outline plans. They revise them. They seek counsel from capable minds. They measure progress. Intensity, guided by plan, becomes controlled force. Henry Ford did not merely demand the engine. He supported his demand with resources and coordination. The furnace of conviction must be joined with intelligent action. The 1% are not fearless, they are unyielding. Part 3, the final separation, when obsession becomes identity. In the beginning, sacred fixation feels unnatural. Comfort has ruled your habits for years. Discipline feels sharp. Repetition feels forced. Yet if you persist, a transformation occurs. What was once effort becomes identity. There was once a young insurance salesman who endured repeated rejection. Doors closed. Clients refused him. Many would have withdrawn. He did not. He studied each refusal. He refined his presentation. He returned again and again until his name became respected in his field. He did not succeed through charm alone. He succeeded through refusal to leave without improvement. His income rose. His reputation strengthened. Observers called him fortunate. They did not see the years of silent repetition and disciplined service. The 1% separate themselves quietly. They rise before convenience. They speak their aim aloud. They decline trivial pleasures that dilute focus. They think in terms of years, not days. They understand that character compounds like capital. Gradually, something shifts. Effort feels natural. Discipline feels ordinary. Sacrifice feels chosen. Obsession ceases to feel like pressure and becomes personality. Their speech grows firm because their thought is firm. Their eyes hold certainty because their mind is unified. Their handshake carries authority because their decision is complete. Reputation begins to precede them. The world will say, he was always destined. It will not mention the mornings of repetition. It will not mention the evenings of study. It will not mention the countless moments when retreat was possible but refused. When sacred fixation becomes identity, action is no longer forced. It flows. Persistence is no longer heroic. It is habitual. The law of cosmic habit force has been enlisted in service of the aim. Say to yourself, I am the type of man who finishes what he begins. My chief aim defines my character. I go beyond what is required without complaint. My persistence writes my destiny. These words are not decoration. They are instruction to the subconscious mind. 1 year from now, the difference between you and the 1% will not be talent. It will not be luck. It will not be circumstance. It will be whether you chose sacred fixation or continued negotiation with comfort. Interest produces admiration. Obsession produces ownership. You must now choose which side of that line you stand upon. Epilogue. A simple order for immediate action. You have heard the distinction. You have seen the line. Now I will leave you with something plain, direct, and ready for execution. No theory, no decoration, only action. Tonight, before you rest, write one clear sentence that declares your definite chief aim. Not 3 aims, not a vague intention. One sentence. State exactly what you will become, what you will achieve, and by what general means you intend to achieve it. Write it in your own hand and then stand upright and read it aloud, slowly, with conviction, not as a wish, but as a command. Read it again in the morning before you speak to anyone else. Read it again before you sleep. Do this without fail for the next 30 days. Second, remove one habit that weakens your fixation. 1. Do not attempt to reform your entire character in a single evening. Choose the habit that most clearly steals time or energy from your aim and eliminate it. Replace it immediately with one deliberate action that advances your purpose. Third, begin rising 30 minutes earlier than usual. Use those minutes only for your chief aim, for study, planning, or execution. Guard that time as sacred. Those 30 minutes, repeated daily, will separate you from the drifting majority. Fourth, tell no one of your vow unless they strengthen it. Sacred fixation does not require applause. It requires protection. Withdraw from conversations that dilute your aim. Seek association with those who move with intention. Finally, adopt this declaration and repeat it daily. I have chosen my aim. I have sealed my decision. I act without negotiation. I persist without complaint. I finish what I begin. This is not a complicated program. It is a disciplined one. If you follow these simple steps for 1 year, not 1 week, you will not recognize the man you have become. Your habits will have shifted. Your posture will have changed. Your reputation will have strengthened. And the world will begin to respond differently, not because it changed, but because you did. Remember this: interest observes, commitment begins, obsession completes. Now the responsibility rests with